Okay, let's be honest. Have you ever stood over a pot of boiling water with a live lobster or crab and felt just a little bit weird about it? We tell ourselves it's for the best flavor, it's the freshest way, and hey, it's over in just a few seconds. But what's really happening in those few seconds?
And that is the exact question we're going to dive into today. We're going to push past those common assumptions and actually look at the science, the neuroscience, really, of what these animals are experiencing. And more importantly, what it all means for us, right here in our own kitchens. So it really boils down to this, doesn't it? Are we talking about a quick death or a long, drawn-out, painful one? Let's get into it. And you know what? To figure this out, you don't need a PhD in marine biology. It all comes down to one surprisingly simple idea, a kind of pain equation that, I promise, will change how you look at this whole thing. All right, pay attention, because this right here is the single most important concept. For an animal, or us for that matter, to actually feel pain, you need two things. First, you need nerves that are working. And second, you need time for those nerves to actually send the pain signal up to the brain to be processed. If you can knock out either one of those things, the nerve function or the time, you basically eliminate the experience of pain itself. Simple, right? Okay, so keeping that simple equation in mind, pain equals nerve function times time, let's put the three most common cooking methods to the test. We'll put them on the clock and see how they really stack up. First up, we've got the one pretty much everyone knows, direct heat. Straight into the boiling water or right onto a hot grill. It seems super fast, right? But let's take a closer look. Okay, so what's really happening second by second? Well, in that very first second, the animal goes into temperature shock, and its pain nerves just light up like crazy. Then, for the next 10, maybe even 30 seconds or more, those nerves are just firing nonstop. This is the absolute peak of the pain. And here's the kicker. That moment when the animal stops moving, that's not when the pain ends. That's actually when it's at its most intense. The nerves are just beginning to fail from the sheer heat. And this chart paints a pretty grim picture. You can see it right there. With direct heat, you are looking at maximum pain intensity, 5 out of 5 stars, and a really long duration of suffering. It is by far the worst case scenario from a pain perspective. All right, so what about method number 2? This is the one a lot of people turn to, thinking it's more humane, freezing the animal first to kind of put it to sleep before cooking. But here's what the science tells us. Freezing is kind of like putting a computer into sleep mode, not shutting it down completely. Yeah, as the temperature drops, its metabolism slows way down. The nerves get dulled, sure, but they're still active. Consciousness isn't just switched off. So when it does hit the heat, while the pain response is definitely weaker and shorter, it is absolutely not gone. And you can see that reflected right here. It's an improvement, for sure. Both the intensity and the duration of the pain come down a few notches. So it's better, but it's definitely not a pain-free solution. Which brings us to method number 3. This is the one that comes straight from those neuroscientific principles we talked about. Rapid neural destruction. In other words, destroying the nervous system before any cooking begins. So if freezing was sleep mode, think of this as pulling the plug right out of the wall. It's over. In less than a second, a knife or scissors physically destroys the main nerve center. The ability to even process pain is just gone, instantly. Now, you might still see some movement after, some twitching, but it's super important to know that's just a reflex. It's muscles firing, not a sign of pain or consciousness. And would you look at that? The results are just crystal clear. The difference is night and day. Pain intensity and duration plummet to as low as they can go. This is the only method that truly gets us to a near instantaneous and painless end. So why? Why is the difference so incredibly dramatic? Well, it all comes back to that core idea of how these methods interact with the animal's nerves. This is really the heart of it. Our gut intuition tells us, hey, if it dies fast, it doesn't have time to feel pain. But the neuroscience shows us it's more nuanced than that. See, the problem with boiling is that it stimulates the nerves first, creating this massive, overwhelming pain signal, and then it destroys them. The truly humane approach flips that completely. It destroys the nerve's ability to function first, so there's no system left to feel anything at all. Okay, so enough theory. How do we actually put this into practice in our own kitchens? It's actually pretty straightforward. Here's a quick humane guide. Let's start with crustaceans. Shrimp, crabs, and lobsters. For smaller things like shrimp or crabs, their nervous systems are a bit more spread out. So the best way is to use a pair of sharp scissors and just quickly cut right through the center of the head. For a lobster, it's a good idea to chill it in the fridge for about 10 or 20 minutes first. That just makes it sluggish and easier to handle. Then you take a large shark chef's knife and split the head right down the middle in one single decisive motion. It's over instantly.
Now, what about fish? Well, their nervous system is much more centralized, which actually makes things a bit simpler. The most humane and fastest method is a technique called aikajimi, and it's really two quick steps. First, you place the fish on a stable surface and use a blunt object to deliver one firm, heavy blow to the head, just behind the eyes. That causes immediate brain death. Then, you follow that up right away by bleeding the fish. The whole thing takes just a couple of seconds, it ensures minimal suffering, and, bonus, it's been used by chefs for centuries because it also results in much better quality meat.
So, to wrap this all up, maybe we need to reframe the question we ask ourselves in the kitchen. The real question isn't just how quickly does it die? The better question is it forced to feel its own death? By understanding this simple science, we can make a choice that's not just more humane for the animal, but one that honestly lets us all cook with a much clearer conscience.